So, Viola von Cramon, an MEP, former MEP, and a German politician with the Greens, she has been on Inside Albania many times. I like her because she says what she thinks. You know, she has very strong positions on Kosovo. 80% of the time they align with my own. 20% I have some issues with, but she always makes for a great guest, and I'm very happy that she's decided to come and join us today for a longer interview where I hope to delve a little bit deeper into some of the recent developments and some of the historic issues which are still plaguing relationships between Kosovo, Serbia, and the EU. Viola, welcome back again to Inside Albania.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be your guest.
Thank you. I want to dive right into things. I mean, as ever, the situation between Kosovo and Serbia and the EU has been complicated over the last few months. But I wanted to go back over sort of a number of things that have happened, the situation as it is at the moment, and what could potentially happen in the future. First of all, the first thing I want to ask you, I was reading an article on Euractiv this morning, where I also work. And it was talking about how Europe is looking to expand its sources of supply of strategic materials for the ecological transition, including lithium. We know this is essential for building batteries, and Serbia is very rich in this resource. It has an agreement with the EU for this, and a number of NGOs in Serbia have been sort of up in arms about this, saying that Serbia is not so hot on human rights standards and things like that. And when I hear about this big deal with the EU between Serbia for a mineral which is critical for the EU's sort of various plans, I can't help but think, you know, maybe some of this, what I consider appeasement from the EU towards Serbia over the last years, might be possibly to do with things like this. And I'm throwing it out there because I only read this article this morning, and I just wondered what you think about this sort of situation and this deal.
Well, I mean, I do understand why the EU does not want to rely only on Chinese raw material or parts of the supply chain for innovative automotive industries. So I think there is a logic to look for own resources, own sources. And I know before the full invasion of Russia in Ukraine began, the European Union also was in negotiation with Ukraine about certain raw material partnerships, lithium, other materials. So I don't think it's unusual to look where are the sources and is there a political and economical interest to go for a deepening trade negotiation here. But in the case of Serbia, it's of course very specific. And I mean, I have been there in Jadar. I have been there at the places. I was speaking to the protesters and to those who are rightly so very critical of one, of course, the ecological situation. The second is the political situation. And of course, it is a state capturing situation in Serbia at the moment. So I wish the EU could have used the situation, which is just super keen to get this deal done, for their advantage, not just for satisfying the automotive industry, but even more so for political impact and for political weight. And here, I think they missed another opportunity. I would say if you have rule of law, if you have independent judges or independent judiciary system, if you have transparency, if you have public participation, of course, such a deal can be promising and can be fruitful also for countries in the Western Balkan. So why not offering something, but with a hard conditionality and nothing else? Mm-hmm. So I'm a bit afraid that there is a big deal. We will not know whether this will materialize soon. We see on the global market that the price for lithium is falling. We see that batteries are produced very soon without lithium. Mm-hmm. So there is this framework for the partnership, for the raw material partnership, But whether this will be ever implemented, I'm not so sure. But yes, I think it was a political mistake without any conditionality, offering such a big deal, nevertheless, to President Vučić.
What about the Trepča mines in North Kosovo? Now, these mines are in a terrible state at the moment. They're not sort of properly functional, but I mean, various different sources say there are huge quantities of various different minerals and things in these mines. And I always feel that Serbia's sort of stronghold on Kosovo is not just about territory, it's about the mines as well, particularly in the north of Kosovo as well. Do you think Serbia, this is right, maybe Serbia is interested in keeping a hold on the north of Kosovo because of these mines? Do you think the EU could possibly be interested in what's there as well? Or is this...
To be honest, I'm not enough informed about the value of those mines, but that Serbia is so terrible interested in the north of Kosovo, I'm not so sure. I mean, if you see the situation realistic, they're actually, or at least the people there, they feel completely abandoned. So they don't feel that Serbia does enough for them to protect. So it is also a perspective to whom you speak. I'm not so sure whether Serbia really has such a grip. Of course, they control the situation. I don't want to be misunderstood. But I think compared to the situation 10 years ago, that has completely changed. And that's why, of course, it is in our common interest to make sure whatever happens in the north is shared by all ethnicities who live in Kosovo and in the north. And so I don't know whether these Trepča mines are the real motivation to be engaged. I doubt it, but maybe I don't have all the information on hand.
I wanted to ask as well, I don't think we've spoken on this topic, but the government of Kosovo's decision to ban the use of other currencies in Kosovo and to enforce the euro as the sole currency, which obviously means that the dinar can't be used. And then obviously that caused a big drama in the north, as if there wasn't enough already. And, you know, we saw banks being raided and shut down and people queuing for their pensions. And I just wondered what your thoughts about this were, because I saw so many media saying, you know, Kosovo has banned the dinar, you know, and it wasn't strictly true. I mean, obviously, I think that was part of their intention, was to outlaw the use of the dinar, but they did sort of ban the use of any foreign currency. And I'm wondering, what your views on that whole situation were? Do you think Kosovo was right to take that sort of stance for its sovereignty and then just didn't implement it very well? Or are you not in favour of their move at all?
Well, I mean, being in favor or not in favor, I think it's a bit contradictory. On one hand, if you speak to Albin Kurti, he says, well, the dialogue is important for me. For me, this decision does not or shouldn't be taken unilaterally. I mean, if you really would like to get this dialogue finished at any time, you put this into dialogue and you give the people in the north a pre-warning. You say, okay, we would like to finally shut down the possibility for you to pay in dinar, to receive dinar, shut down the bank offices, shut down the post offices, closing down the medical system, because we offer you the same infrastructure in our system. But neither they gave them a warning, nor they have offered anything practical themselves in the other system, nor was that any, I would say, attempt to really integrate the North more to the rest of the country. And here I think it's a big mistake. I mean, yes, of course, the sovereignty of the Republic of Kosovo must be, or has to be, has to be stronger implemented, or has to be stronger enforced. But these unilateral measures, I mean, come on, they harm only the ordinary people on the ground. It's a clear political signal. We don't care whether your life is more miserable or not. If you don't like this, leave. Yeah, and that is I think the message which is received by the people. And so there's more stress, more frustration, and less understanding, and less motivation to compromise on other topics. And so I see it's not super helpful. Of course, theoretically, the government has the right to do everything.
Yes.
But is that smart, and is that politically advanced if you actually tell everyone in Brussels and in the other capitals that you are in favor of the dialogue? I wouldn't say so. And so, I mean, in the end, you want to become a member of the European Union. You want to become a member of the Council of Europe. Mm-hmm. But every time you could prove that you advanced to play according to the rules or regulations there, you do the opposite. And this is what I think is not super smart. If you're applying for a club, you rather look that you play according to the rules which are applied in the club. In the constitution is not just the obligation of the of the currency, but it's also an obligation that at least you should publish those information in 2 languages. Mm-hmm. And not even this was taking place. And so you see, I think there's a real intention not to satisfy the people. And this, of course, plays and accumulates on their nerves. And it's not really fueling into a better mood, I would say. That's my impression.
Now, you mentioned the Council of Europe. I was there for the second vote, the second plenary vote earlier this year in Strasbourg, which went well, and it was great. And then, obviously, the next vote, the final vote, has been postponed. It appears it's unlikely to happen before the end of the year because there's no consensus. There's potentially not enough consensus for it to pass. And it was really interesting because I knew, obviously, which countries would be against it, which ones would have a problem. But then I was given information from a German diplomat who told me that actually the ones who are being the most vocal at the moment, aside from Germany, Greece as well, obviously, was France and Italy. And France, okay, they have a recent military deal with Serbia for Rafale jets for billions. I would guess this plays into it slightly as well. So I'm curious what you think about that. But also Italy. I was like, where did Italy come from? Why did they've never really spoken very strongly against Kosovo or anything like that. And I'm just wondering where this has popped up from. Any ideas?
Well, I mean, I try to explain why I would say more neutral countries see that some of the moves of the prime minister can be seen as a provocation. Mm-hmm. And that is what I don't understand. If you have a goal, and the goal for me, for Kosovo, is to be a full member of the European Union, but the first step would be to be a full member and internationally accepted and received as a full member of the Council of Europe. You try to make sure you start all the diplomatic offenses, all the diplomatic charm affairs you need to get this goal done, or the aim done. But what I then see, and of course there is a bias. There's no question, because of course the Serbian diplomats are around as well, and one can imagine that if the things in the north go worse, this is being used all the time. And if you have the Ohrid agreement and you see that one obligation is to form this community of Serbian municipalities, but you get the impression that there is no real political will to really work on that, to come up with a proposal, to take some ownership, to do something on this, and to send it to the Constitutional Court. Of course, some of the member states, and Italy will be one of them, will say, well, I mean, we take a new member into the club, who actually has not really proven domestically that they are adhering to let's say the conditionality or the treaties they have signed. Yes, of course, you can also say, well, on the other hand, Serbia has not even signed the Ohrid agreement.
Yes.
That's true, and I would say the European Union made a major mistake not forcing Vučić to sign this agreement. Absolutely right. But nevertheless, the part Kosovo could do to become closer to the EU, I think the government should do, and they haven't done this. And yes, I can imagine that some of the member states, they tried hard. Quint did a lot in Pristina to support Kosovo, to bring them into the Council of Europe. And it was not being seen as support. It was only being seen as they're pushing us against our own will. And then in the end, yes, some member states react in the way they have reacted. I don't say that I would support this or endorse that, but this is obviously the direction, yes.
I mean, I think as far as the Association of Serb Municipalities goes, I don't see anything happening on that anytime soon because there are elections in Kosovo next year and this will be a deeply unpopular move. I don't think the government are going to want to move forward with that, although it could give them extra points because if they move forward with that, things will open up for them in other areas, but I'm not sure they're ready to take that risk. And when I was in Strasbourg, the argument from different members of the plenary who took the floor was, okay, the Association of Serb Municipalities, it's not a prerequisite for joining the Council of Europe, but, you know, Kosovo said it would do it. But if we bring them into the Council of Europe, we can then pressure them to do it. We have mechanisms to oversee human rights and minority rights in the country. So it's like this carrot stick sort of chicken egg situation, which should come first. But yeah, I realistically, I don't think there will be any movement on this before the elections in Kosovo. Politically, I don't think it's worth it for his government, which is a shame.
Yeah, and I think this could be easily solved. I mean, if the prime minister is as popular as many people tell me, it would be easy to say, hey, I brought you into the Council of Europe and we will together form this CSM, the Community of Serbian Municipalities. I mean, this would be easy to sell.
It's a risk.
And then he would be in the forehand. He can even deliver on the, I would say, the political and the legal framework of this CSM. But in the end, my suspect is that there's not at all a political will to do anything here. And then, of course, you hear the same excuses, which you hear for years now. We do not want to have a second
Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Republika or Republika Srpska, understood. But the proposals the European Union has given to the Republic of Kosovo was exactly not to create a second Republika Srpska. And that's why I don't understand why there's not even a slight attempt to take some of the examples. I know that the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung in Germany did a lot of work here and worked also on the National Assembly and many other institutions. And it would be very easy for all of us. We could at least have sent it to the Constitutional Court. And that step would be already enough for the critical members you have mentioned before, France and Italy. And then Kosovo would be member of the Council of Europe. And Serbia could cry as much as they want. This would be the only step they would need to do. And I don't get it why it isn't done. But yes, that might be a secret of the government.
I'm wondering as well, what in the corridors of Brussels, various institutions and parliament and everything, what do people think of Albin Kurti? I mean, what I've heard is they don't really know what to do with him. He's sort of does what he wants very quickly. He's sort of quite a tough character. You know, what do they think of him? How do they know how to approach him? Do they have sympathies with his point of view, but they, we agree with what he says or does, but it could have been done better, or are they simply tired of him?
I would say Kosovo has a lot of friends in Brussels, and not only in Brussels. I would say in Europe, not because I'm from Germany. Of course, there's a big diaspora in Hamburg, in Stuttgart, and many other cities. And so Kosovo as such, I would say, is a very lovable, very reputational country. It's well known, and there's a lot of exchange, a lot of business activities going on. And people who work more in a political arena have, I would say in general, even a bigger tolerance with many things. So yes, I guess that after so many attempts to say, okay, there's another compromise, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, it seems that the pool of political actors in Brussels is getting smaller. And I see that there is a kind of tiredness or, I wouldn't say frustration, but a lot of, shaking the shoulders, pulling up the shoulders and saying, well, I don't know what to do. Yes, it's his right to take the decision as he does that. But we speak about this Euro integration, if we speak about, we are the most pro-European country, we are the biggest friend of the US, if we are the biggest transatlantic alliance in the Western Balkan. But then if you have the partners from the US or from Berlin or from Brussels on the ground, and they give you some advice and they say, well, this could be done in a way like this. And so exchange is being done continuously and negotiations are taking place. And you see in the end, nothing is taken on board.
They get frustrated.
It's quite hard. It's quite hard. Yeah.
Patience runs out after a while. And I want to ask as well, what about Serbian lobbying in Brussels? I have suspicions they lobby pretty hard regarding their position. Are you able to tell us? And of course, Kosovo do as well. This is normal. But I'm interested to know if you were able to shed any light on how aggressive it is, how they sort of approach the situation in terms of persuading people.
Well, to be honest, my advantage was I am pretty immune. I was only in exchange, or mainly in exchange with the opposition, with the activists, with human rights defenders, with people from different spheres who are not the Putin supporters, more the contrary, people from think tanks, people who know that Serbia is not fulfilling the criteria, that the country is not going the right way. They were not in favor of this lithium agreement or lithium deal, for example. Those were the partners I'm mainly in contact with. So to be honest, maybe there is an aggressive lobbying. I don't know.
I would hazard a guess that from your public comments, they thought, no, there's no point trying with Viola.
Probably not. I mean, yes, of course, when the ambassador, the former ambassador was still there, we had some chats, and she came to the public events. Everyone is welcome. She was used to see that I was not in favor of the official line of the country. Yes. So that was fair. I think that was very professional, but I was not, I would say, the target of those typical lobby groups, if there are any.
Diplomatically put at the end there. Now, it's over a year since the attack in Banska, that what Kosovo calls a terrorist attack, and There's been lots of back and forth. I mean, even myself, I've been contacting Peter Stano and saying, you know, what's the outcome? Oh, we're waiting for the final report. Then I speak to the Kosovo government and they say, well, we've sent everything. We've sent every single document, piece of evidence. What more do they want, you know? And then the commission says, no, we need the final report. And we just seem to be stuck in some sort of stalemate. I don't even know what the status of it is at the moment, except nothing seems to have happened. I'm wondering if you know anything about where we are with this investigation, or are Brussels just sort of hoping that maybe everyone will forget about it so the dialogue can continue?
To be honest, I can't tell you anything new. I'm not aware of why it is so difficult to get the latest information from Serbia. Why is everyone still running around free, even we know who's responsible? Why there isn't any more political and legal pressure towards Serbia and Vučić. I think that was, we were speaking about missed opportunities. That was definitely a very, very big missed opportunity.
Yes.
I think here, speaking about the measures against Kosovo, Serbia has never faced any measures, and that is absolutely unfair. And I was very vocal on this, and I think the EU could have done much more. But, you know, we spoke about the, let's say, more critical voices. I know that Germany was very much in favor of any kind of measures or some kind of fines against Serbia, but you didn't get the two-third majority even here. It's not just Greece or Romania or the non-recognizer. It was many more. And that is, of course, the political reality. So one thing is what you feel, what is not unjust, or what is unjust. And the other thing is, unfortunately, the political reality in the council at the moment.
But I ended up getting very frustrated with Peter Stano. You know, it was even some of the language he was using in press conferences. You know, I think he referred to the people of Kosovo as these people at one time. You know, I mean, he really called them and said they were not being very European. And even his responses to me, you know, like, we're waiting for a final report. Okay, but you try and ask more questions, and he doesn't want to give anything. And I came away from my interactions with him thinking, okay, I'm probably not going to bother asking you any more questions. And I kind of felt he was a bit biased. And I don't know if I'm letting sort of my emotions get the better of me there. And I'm wondering if you think, does he speak for himself? Does he speak for Borrell? Is there some bias coming out of that office?
No, I think he's a professional diplomat. I mean, I don't see that he is specifically biased against Kosovo. I mean, I can be wrong. I don't know. Maybe he triggers some people, or he was triggered by you. I can't tell you.
It does happen sometimes.
Yeah, it's hard for me to judge this, but I mean, there will be a change soon. There will be an Estonian, hopefully, HRVP. Things might change also in the dialogue situation. Also, there will be a new rapporteur in the European Parliament, so there will be not a lot of new faces. This can be a resumption. This can be a new start. This can be a new opportunity, and I really hope that this might end up in a much smoother and a much swifter, let's say, implementation phase of the Ohrid agreement. But for this, of course, you need two sides who play constructively.
Yes.
Unfortunately, and this is what you are portraying, some actors in Brussels have the impression there's one playing constructively and one playing destructively. And if I were Albin Kurti, I would try to switch it around. I would give the black card back to Vučić, where it belongs. You could have done this so easily already through the last month. And yes, I mean, what can I say?
I just feel sometimes, you know, people do say that they position it like a level playing field. And I went to Jakova this summer. I went there for a festival. I took my daughter, and it's a lovely city. And I've been to other places in Kosovo, but in this city, which suffered so much during the war, and when you see with your own eyes the damage that was inflicted on that place, and you speak to people who saw their neighbors murdered or raped or were displaced, and it was like so real when you understand. And then you think, this was in my lifetime, and the people that committed these atrocities and piled up bodies in fields 4 feet high. I mean, I read testimonies, and it's horrific. These people have never faced any consequence. And people in Brussels are saying, well, you have to sit around a table and you have to do what they tell you and you have to bend over. And I kind of did feel, okay, I can see why Kosovo's digging in its heels a bit, because they've had no justice for this. They are a newly independent country, and they are probably quite rightly terrified of any repetition or opportunity to even repeat a tiny bit of what happened during that time. And I feel that some of this nuance about the brutality and the horrificness of what happened there is not even on the radar of people who are making these statements and decisions in Brussels. So that was a statement, not a question. But I just wondered what you think as well.
Of course, I also went to some of the places and spoke to the widows, talked to those who went through this horrible, horrible times. And you're absolutely right. It's not a long time ago. It's actually like this.
Yes.
I do understand why there is this desire for rehabilitation, for working on the past, and Serbia is not even giving you a little finger to commit this and to agree to work on the parts, to have any rehabilitation and so on. And of course, here I absolutely understand the frustration and the stubbornness of Kosovo. But on the other hand, the governments before have agreed to a certain process, and attached to this process are rules. And if you agreed, and if you signed treaties, and if you agreed to go within a certain, I would say, procedure to enter this game, you cannot expect that the press speaker of Borrell considers every time he speaks to your prime minister, he speaks about Kosovo, about the atrocities of 99. This is simply impossible. So I think this is a different level or different layer. Yes, but we have to put much more pressure on Serbia to acknowledge what they have done, to work on the parts, to make sure that there is a sustainable peace in the near future, and so on, and so that also ordinary people in Serbia understand what was actually happening in Kosovo and so on. And here, of course, we are far away from this phase. But does that mean that on a political level, every time you speak to Serbia and Kosovo, this should be the subtitle? I think this is super difficult. I think here we need, nevertheless, a certain extent of pragmatism, flexibility, so that the country can move on. And if you have the interest of your country in your mind, I think you're obliged to be a bit, I mean, yes, the war criminals, we need to go after them. We have to have a better judiciary here, and some things happen, but not enough. But on the other hand, I would say when it comes to this dialogue, this cannot be a precondition of everything.
Viola, thank you very much. As always, it was a pleasure to discuss this with you. I'm happy we had longer to talk this time, and I'm sure you will be back with me again.
Okay, thank you so much,
Thank
Elise,
you very
and
much.
all the best to you.
Bye-bye.